We put so much thought into our homes, right? The color of the paint, the garden, making sure the roof is solid. But what about the invisible forces, the ones working underground? Today, we're going to dive into one of the most critical and honestly most overlooked parts of owning a home, managing water. It might not sound exciting, but trust me, getting it wrong can be an absolute disaster. Okay, let's jump in. And when I say disaster, I'm not kidding. This is way more than just a squishy lawn. We are talking about the kind of damage that can cost you literally thousands of dollars year after year. See, poor water management doesn't just make a mess, it attacks the very foundation of your biggest investment. So the stakes, they're not just high, they are structural. So here's our game plan for today. First, we're going to uncover the hidden damage water can do. Then, we'll turn you into a property detective, showing you exactly what warning signs to look out for. We'll zoom in on the unique challenges they face in St. Joseph, Missouri, which really shows why local knowledge is so key. After that, we'll open up the professional's toolkit of solutions, and finally, we'll lay out the path to protecting your property for the long haul. All right, let's get into our first section. When you hear drainage problem, you probably picture a swampy yard or maybe some puddles that just won't go away. But that's just what you see on the surface. The real problems, they run so much deeper, and they're way more destructive than a little bit of mud. Here's the thing you have to understand. Unmanaged water is basically waging a silent war on your property. All that standing water, it suffocates your lawn, killing off grass and plants. It becomes a five-star resort for mosquitoes. And that runoff, it literally carves away your landscape. But the biggest threat, it's the immense pressure it puts on your home's foundation, which leads to cracks, basement floods, and eventually serious structural failure. And all of that, you guessed it, takes a huge bite out of your property value.
So, how do you spot the trouble before it turns into a full-blown catastrophe? Well, this next part is your diagnostic checklist. As we go through these, I really want you to do a mental walk-around of your own property. These are the classic signs that your landscape is pretty much screaming for help.
First up, the most obvious clue, puddles that stick around. Think about the last time it rained hard. Was there still standing water in your yard 24 hours later? If the answer is yes, that is a massive red flag. It's telling you that water has absolutely nowhere to go, probably because of bad grading or soil that's so compacted it's acting more like concrete than a sponge. Okay, for this next one, you're going to have to use your feet. Go take a walk around your yard, especially near your downspouts. Does the ground feel kind of spongy underfoot, almost like you're on a thick, wet carpet, even days after it's rained? That feeling means the soil just below the surface is completely saturated. It's basically a hidden underground swamp. Now we're moving from the yard to the house itself. Get up close and personal with your foundation. Are you seeing any cracks? Now this is a much more serious sign of a drainage problem. It's often caused by something called hydrostatic pressure, which is really just a fancy way of saying there's a ton of water trapped in the soil, and its sheer weight is pushing and pushing and pushing against your foundation walls until they start to give way. And finally, don't forget to use your nose. That musty, damp smell you might notice in your basement or crawl space, that's not just old house smell. Nope, it is a direct symptom of a moisture problem, and more often than not, it's tied directly to what's happening with drainage on the outside. And if you can actually smell mold, the problem has already set up shop. Now here is where things get really interesting. These general problems we've been talking about can get way worse depending on your local conditions. A generic solution from a big box store often fails because it just doesn't get the local environment. To see what I mean, we're going to zoom in on the St. Joseph area in Missouri, which faces what you might call a perfect storm of drainage challenges. It's not any one thing, you see. It's how it all comes together. The area has these rolling hills that act like funnels for water. They get these massive downpours that just overwhelm normal systems. They have this really unique soil situation we're going to talk about in a sec. Lots of historic homes with ancient drainage, and huge old trees with roots that can just crush underground pipes. This is exactly why local expertise isn't just nice to have, it's essential. So let's talk about that soil, because it's pretty wild. The local pros have a great name for it, the soil sandwich effect. And that's the perfect way to picture it. Imagine a nice, absorbent layer of soil on top, sitting on a thick, dense slab of clay underneath that water just can't break through. So that top layer of the sandwich is a special kind of soil called loess. It's basically superfine silt that was blown in by the wind after the last ice age. It's really permeable, so water zips right through it. But the moment that water hits the dense clay layer underneath, it slams on the brakes. It can't go down, so it has to go sideways, creating this hidden subsurface river that just wreaks havoc on foundations. Okay, enough about the problems. Let's get to the solutions. See, a professional approach isn't about some magic one-size-fits-all fix. It's about having a whole toolkit and knowing exactly which tool to use for which problem. So let's open up that toolkit and see what's inside. Here are three of the heavy hitters. A French drain is your go-to for that hitting underground water we were just talking about, perfect for those spongy, waterlogged yards. Then you have a channel drain, which is for hard surfaces like driveways and patios, catching sheets of water as they flow across. And a catch basin, well, it's basically a storm drain for your yard. You put it in low spots to grab all that runoff before it can cause trouble. And this right here shows how much the technology has improved. Modern systems rely on amazing materials like geotextile fabric. The best way to think about it is like a high-tech filter, or maybe a bodyguard for the pipe. It wraps around the drain, lets all the water flow in, but it keeps out all the dirt and silt that would eventually clog the whole thing up. This stuff is absolutely crucial for making a system last. So you've spotted a problem, and you know there are solutions out there. What does actually fixing it look like? I know it can seem like a huge, intimidating project, but a professional installation is actually a very systematic, logical process. It's all designed to give you lasting results with as little disruption as possible. It always starts with a really thorough assessment and a detailed plan. Step 1. Then comes safety, calling to have all the underground utility lines marked before anyone even thinks about digging. That's step 2. Step 3 is the precision installation itself, where pros use tools like laser levels to make sure gravity is doing all the work. And finally, step 4. Everything is carefully put back and your landscape is restored. Honestly, it often looks even better than it did before. And the great news is, the protection doesn't stop when the crew drives away. A well-built system will last for decades with just a tiny bit of simple maintenance. We're talking really easy stuff, like checking the grates for leaves, making sure the exit point is clear, and just keeping an eye on things. A little bit of proactive care goes a long, long way. You know, this quote from the source material it nails it. The whole point is to be proactive, not reactive. Taking care of a small drainage issue today can literally save you from a catastrophic and unbelievably expensive emergency repair down the line. It's all about protecting your home, your investment, and your peace of mind. So, I'll just leave you with this one question to think about. Water is always going to find a path. The real question is, are you the one deciding where that path goes to protect your home, or are you just letting the water silently work against you?